Thank you all for coming out. We'll reconvene the April 28th meeting of the Lake Forest Board of Education. If you will please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Followed by a move to silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I must say that all of our pledges of allegiance are great, but that one was superb for some reason. Thanks to all the students that participated. We'll begin tonight with roll call of board members. Mrs. McCloskey?
Here.
Mrs. Starkey?
Here.
Mr. Thomas? Here. And President Earl Dempsey serving as chair as president as well. Mr. Rao is unable to make it this evening. We have 4 board members present. Thank you all for being here. We'll move on to item 2.4, approval of agenda. Mr. Thomas.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2.4, approval of agenda.
Second.
Have motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0.
2.5, approval of minutes. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2.5, the meeting minutes from March the 24th. That's written.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Motion carries 3-0 with 1 abstention. Moving on, the fun part of the evening. Recognition presentations. We have a couple this evening. I will turn it over to Dr. Lucas.
Thank you, President Dempsey. I think we'll start with Ms. Carter. You want to come on up? And she's going to present some awards from the Department of Technology poster winners. Right there's fine. Thank you, Ms. Carter.
I hope that DTI could make it tonight, but they couldn't make it, and unfortunately our t-shirts from them are back ordered. We will be giving those to our winners before the end of the school year. Just to introduce myself, my name is Dana Carter. I'm the 4th and 5th grade computer technology teacher at Lake Forest Central. And for the past 15 years, Central has participated in the state of Delaware Department of Technology and Information Kids Safe Online Poster Contest. From this participation, we have not only brought cybersecurity awareness to our students, but we've also generated several state finalists and winners over the years, I'm proud to say. After reviewing internet safety tips in the lab with our students and the draw tools, now that we are into our Google Docs and software, they use Google Slides to create some amazing posters this year. And tonight I'd like to recognize not just Central's top 3 winners, but the state of Delaware top 3 poster winners. So they are, I think we have them. Start with the 3rd place. We have with, let's see, beware of giving out information about yourself. 3rd place winner, Haley Kovlow. And our 2nd place winner was Stay Safe and Strong Against Viruses. We have Brandon Bailey.
Good job.
And our 1st place winner and the recipient of a Kindle Fire is Adriana Sparks.
So Mrs. Carter, did you say that these were not just our top winners? These were the winners, all three
State of
swept the
Delaware.
state.
State of Delaware.
Congratulations.
And then next up, Ms. Fox is going to come up and tell us some great things about North Elementary School. We got a few hands on deck here to help out. Go ahead, Ms. Fox.
All right, well, good evening, board members, good evening, Dr. Lucas, and Lake Forest community. On behalf of Mrs. Dotson, I'd like to welcome all of you to our great little school, North Elementary. Our teachers and staff have worked very hard this year to provide our students with high-quality education while offering some awesome extracurricular activities, and that's what we're going to highlight this evening. We've been so very happy to have our students physically in the building this year, and we've offered some exciting events such as before and after school tutoring, which is curriculum, of course. And then we've had fun events such as our holiday concert. We've had a drive-up event that a lot of family members really attended. A lot of our district office personnel came. We have Fancy Fridays in our cafeteria where students get dressed up and have fancy tablecloths, and we have a career day coming and a night of the arts. This evening, we'd like to share with you just a little snapshot of what our school year has looked like for our students. To kick it off, we're going to have our amazing art teacher, Mr. Weller, come up and some of our students and share some of their exciting creations that they have worked on this year.
Good evening. As some of you are aware, I'm Todd Weller. I'm the art educator here at North Elementary. I'm here tonight to share some information about our annual art club, but I think I'd rather have the art club members do the sharing. So when I call their names, I'm going to have Avery White Knight, Valentina Smith, Hope Robbins, Allison Seld, Grayson Jem, and Kobe Pierre. Join me up here, please.
We are some of the students in the 2022 Visual Art Club. The club this year has an in-person and the virtual options. This was important because over 50 third graders signed up to participate in this art club. To provide extra class spacing, the students were divided into groups of 16. Most of the art lessons have started between writing by Mr. Weller and then creating. We learned from Mr. Weller, but the virtual links give us a chance to learn how to draw the pigeon from Bill Willis, the illustrator that created it. We have fun making our own diary of them. We get to have our fun with Mr. Weller by kindergarten, first and second grade by attending the virtual lessons posted on the club. Every week, a new virtual challenge is posted. Each challenge is made dropped down from the art sticker. For more practice, sketchbook challenges are also posted for more chances to make fun.
Let's hear it for some of our art club. As they said, enrollment was very tight this year. We actually had some students bring their permission slips back the same day they were sent home. I was leaving at like 4:15 and literally a car came in the back parking lot and handed it to me. I was getting in my vehicle because they wanted to make sure they could get in. After talking with Ms. Gerald, working out safety features, how far apart they could be, we did the rotation method and the virtual students taking it home. If they go to Florida for a week and they can't do that week, they do it next week. Each morning I come in, find a nice stack of artworks in my room, in my drop-off box, and I mark them off as having credit, and they can have. I found out we have some very talented grandparents in this district, but grandparents can do it, brothers and sisters, anybody at home. The lessons are always there, and they can check them out. So I'm so glad they could come. I was fortunate because some of these students were in the last section, and some of them just started art club today for the first round after school. So I'm so glad they could come and join us. I'm just gonna do one more round of applause for you. We didn't know if you'd have any questions about the club. I do have a link to share if you'd like to see what one of the pages looks like. We did post links over spring break for some spring break challenges. And one upcoming one, they get to choose from several extinct and ancient languages and write their name or something in Mesopotamian, Viking ruins, Mayan symbols, Chinese or Egyptian. This week is the beginning of May, so they're having a May the 4th Be With You challenge. They're starting off with a how to draw Baby Yoda or any of the other characters, and then they can add from there. So if you want him playing soccer for the Spartans, which one of the students did today, or picking flowers, you could take the starting point and go from there. That was this week's one, how to draw Obi-Wan Kenobi.
As you can see here at North, we do not just focus on providing academic growth and support for our students, but we also focus on the whole child and providing some social and creative activities. We'd like to share with you a brief video of many of the other events that we do here at North. Just take note, please, to the music and poetry accompanying the video provided by one of our other after-school programs that Mr. Durham runs for us. It's our Glee Club. Mr. Weller will make me point out that some of our artwork also is from our librarian, Mrs. Ferguson, incorporates some of that artwork in there also. And so to wrap up our evening, I'd just like to thank Mr. Durham and Mr. Weller for all their hard work with our presentation and of course, all the amazing events and activities that they help us. I know that I wouldn't have been halfway where I am today without the staff and these two gentlemen. So, you know, we're just really, we love North and we're happy to be here. So hope you enjoy our presentation.
So I forgot to preface the evening by saying each year the board travels outside of the dungeon of the CBO and does a bit of a road trip to some of our schools. And this year we are here at North. We love North as well. We appreciate everybody's involvement. Mrs. Fox, Mr. Weller, Mr. Durham, thank you very much, as well as students and families that came out this evening. Everybody keep up the great work and push to summer. It's coming soon. Thank you all. With that said, generally at this point of the meeting, we tend to have a bit of a mass exodus. So we'll take just a moment and we'll pause, and anyone who doesn't want to stay around for the fun stuff to come, you are more than welcome to, or you won't hurt our feelings by accident. So thank you all. Okay. Thanks to those of you who stayed for the fun. More fun, I should say. We are on to item 2.7, citizens participation, opportunity for members of the public twice a month at each meeting to address the board on various topics. If you were wanting to address the board, we'd ask you to fill out a form indicating such and turn it into the superintendent's office. Mr. Piccolo, do we have anyone signed up this evening? Okay. All right, so we will close public comment for this evening, and then we'll open back up at our next board meeting. With that, we're moving on to section 3, item 3.1, student council report. Must be the suite.
Yes.
Hello, Isabel.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Isabel Sweet, and I'm the co-president of the Student Council at Lake Forest High School. I have a few announcements. Prom this year will be held on May 14th from 6 to 10 p.m. at Harrington Fairgrounds. The Grand March will begin at 6 p.m. Tickets are sold now through May 6th, and a single ticket is $35 and couple tickets are $65. Guest permission forms must be turned in this year by May 2nd. No one over the age of 20 may attend. The theme this year is Le Jardin de l'Amour, the Garden of Love. My next announcement is the chorus spring concert is Wednesday, May 11th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in Lake Forest High School's auditorium, and it is free of charge. The FFA held its annual banquet on Tuesday, April 12th. It was great to have a normal banquet again with over 300 people in attendance. At the banquet, we gave out awards to students, community supporters, multiple scholarships, elected the new officer team, and were able to celebrate the successes of the past year. Our new officers are President Cole Murphy, Vice President Caitlin Pippin, Junior Advisor Sydney Messick, Secretary Grace Murphy, Treasurer Ryan Deputy, Reporter Brianna Hammond, Centennial Miley Wilkie, Historian Katie Argo, and Parliamentarian Mason Hay. The plant science class is currently selling bedding plants. Contact Ms. Saxon if you would like to purchase some and support our program. The annual FFA appreciation banquet is next Thursday, May 5th, during all 3 high school lunch periods. All CBO staff and board members are invited to attend. Looking forward to the FFA is gearing up for a busy spring/summer, preparing for June and fair competitions, fair displays, and training lands to show at the fair, and so much more.
Thank you, Ms. Sweet. Any questions for Isabel? Thank you for being here. We appreciate the work you and Natalie are doing.
Thank you for having me.
For you and, yeah, Natalie, sorry. All right, we're on to 3.2, financial reports, Mr. Kirk Keller.
Good evening. This evening, we do have the financial position report up on your screen for the end of the 3rd quarter for this fiscal year. And nothing really has changed from a seismic standpoint. The local expenses, if you read all the way far to the far right-hand column, the projected balance at the end of this fiscal year is supposed to be 3.83 million. And so at the last financial position report that I reported back in January, I reported 3.94. So it's down about $100,000 from what I projected back then. We are going through a lot more Kelly services, the substitute costs than I had originally anticipated, but that's a good thing, I guess, because that means that they're actually filling some of these vacancies that we've had in the classroom. So that's a good thing. But on another note, the Division 2 funds, we're projecting a balance on 6/30 of 713,000, and a good portion of those is our Division 2 all other costs, which are discretionary in nature. So they could be treated almost like our local expenses, and they will be able to carry over the fiscal year. So that's good news there. So I expect to have a good portion of those funds as well. Maybe half of those are energy funds, which we can only use on our energy costs, but the other half are the all other cost category, which are discretionary in nature. And so that's a good thing. But really the bottom line, the projected balance down slightly from what I projected last time, 3.83 million, and no other major changes across the board. Any questions on the financial position report?
Any questions on this report for Mr. Keller? I don't believe we have any. So
Okay.
you will need a signature at the end of the evening.
I'll come get you for a signature at the end of the.
And it will come back up for a vote later this evening. Thank you, Kirk. Item 3.3, Superintendent Report, Dr. Stephen Lucas.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Spartan family, and just, I know that most of them have left, but great job to all the North people. Ms. Fox, I do have to embarrass her a little bit. You know, she's been doing pretty heavy double duty there for, I don't know, well over a month now. As the sole administrator here at North, so.
With one arm.
Yeah, and then, and we had to browbeat her into taking a few hours off to go get a cast on. So, yeah, thank you, Ms. Fox. Keep up the great work. You're really doing a wonderful job here at North. And it's evident by the way that everything is set up and the presentation that the staff and the students came in here and did. This is by far the best board meetings that we have when we come out to the schools. We're at the high school several weeks back, and they did the Greece preview, and that was amazing as well. So great things going on throughout the district. Let's see, and as well as the other recognees, want to congratulate them publicly on their awards. That's a pretty big deal. Awareness, internet awareness. We all know our kids are, they're on their devices 24/7, and teaching them, safety and knowing, being able to discern predatory practices and things like that is really critical that our kids learn that in an early age. So we're so glad that they're participating in programs like that. I'd also like to congratulate all our district employees of the year. We mentioned about a month ago now, our building-based teachers of the year were announced. Just recently, we announced our support professionals of the year. We also earlier announced our behavior professional of the year. So you can check our website. There's a long list of people. So I just suffice to congratulate everybody, and please check our website for all those well-deserved awardees. I want to thank the Lake Forest FFA for these adorable floral arrangements. Smells fantastic up here, although my allergies may be acting up a little bit, but it smells amazing up here. So thanks to the FFA for putting those together. They look great. As everyone knows, we returned from spring break this week. We're in the home stretch here of school. A lot of events happening very quickly. So we ask everybody to please tap into the district calendar, tap into your school calendar. We'll be having concerts, presentations, award ceremonies. We know that as we get closer to spring, prom, graduation, a lot of things are happening. One of the very important events that is just starting this week and next is spring testing, standardized testing. And really important, we use testing as a guide to tell us how we're doing, but also so that we can shape future instructional practices. So it's really important that our students are here, they're present, they do their absolute best on these assessments. Reach out to your student's teacher if you're not sure when testing will be in your particular school. And please make sure students are getting plenty of rest and have a good breakfast before each school day. We also ask that parents try to keep absences to a minimum, but of course, any students who are exhibiting sickness or especially any symptoms of COVID should stay home, and we'll follow up and get the testing taken care of. Not much to share in terms of the future calendar. We don't have a scheduled day off until Memorial Day, which is May 30th. But again, a lot of things going on calendar-wise, so please check those calendars so you can be abreast of what's going on. And again, just to reiterate that everyone please practice good habits to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. I know there's been some flu going around, a lot of opportunities now that we're sort of back to close quarters and close contact for certain illnesses to spread. So we ask everybody, keep reminding each other, keep washing those hands, social distance where you can. Definitely stay home if you're sick. And if you exhibit any symptoms, get tested. And again, decide amongst your family and yourselves if it's the right decision to get vaccinated. It's still not too late for that. So with that, I move the floor back to President Dempsey for any questions or discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Lucas. Any questions for Dr. Lucas with his superintendent's report? All right, thank you again, sir. Moving on to section 4,
Unfinished business, 4.1 is an action item, Mr. Thomas.
Make a motion to approve resolution 4.1 board policies second reading.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Questions or discussion? We'll take the opportunity as usual to, as briefly as possible, to breeze through these policies one by one. We'll start with EBCB, safety drills. And again, these are second readings, so these were before the board approximately a month or more ago. Any discussion on safety drills? See none, move on to EBCC, bomb threats. Any discussion on EBCC? See none, move on to EBCE, school closings and cancellations. Any discussion on this policy? See none, move on to ECB, buildings and grounds maintenance. Mrs. Stark.
Just on number 2, I know we took off the S in the title for building and grounds. So I think in number 2, I think that S should probably be removed too. It reads better.
All right. Any further discussion on ECB?
Mr. Dempsey, can I
Yes,
ask a
ma'am.
question about this policy? So our supervisor's title is buildings and grounds, because we have more than one building. But to follow the NEPN guide, that's why we took the S off the title. So I don't know if you want them to match or not, but that's the reason they're different.
Let's leave it with Mrs. Starkey's suggestion and we'll match the title. I think I'm more accustomed to saying buildings and grounds, but we'll match the. Thank you, Ms. Padilla. All right, moving on, EEAE, bus safety program. Discussion on this policy. Let's see, now move on to a lot of vowels. EEAEE, bus emergencies. Any discussion on this policy? Seeing none, we'll move on to EGAB, photocopying services. Any discussion on EGAB? Seeing none, we'll move on to EGAE, mail and delivery services. Any discussion on this policy? Seeing none, move on to EGAF, telephone service. A discussion on EGAF. Seeing none, move on to EGD, use of technology in office services. A discussion on EGD. Seeing none, move on to FF, naming facilities. A discussion on FF. Seeing none, move on to GCN, supervision of certified staff. A discussion on GCN. Seeing none, move on to GCQG, supervisory relationships with employees. Any discussion on this policy? I see none. Move on to IJNDB, use of technology resources in instruction. Any discussion on this policy? Mrs. Stark.
I was reading in the section titled unacceptable student use. And it seemed really repetitive. Every sentence ended with is prohibited, is prohibited, is prohibited. So I was wondering if that would be a better, like that section would be better bulleted with the following actions are prohibited. I don't know, it might be an easier read because it's just very repetitive.
We can definitely make that happen.
And if you guys think that makes sense too, I mean, that was just my opinion.
again, you're referencing unacceptable student use.
Yeah,
It is a very long paragraph,
and very repetitive.
so potentially, yes. So are we in a rush at all to get this one out? Could this one be sent back, reworded, and brought back for second reading next time?
Mr. Lovin, this is one of your policies. Are you okay with this?
Yeah, we can change that. It's just, the language in this is going to mirror the language that's in the student code of conduct. So if we do one, we kind of want to do the other at the same time.
Okay. So it appears in this kind of same manner in the student code of conduct. Because to Mrs. Starkey's point, I would agree, it is kind of wordy there. It's a lot to try to digest, and then yes, it is repetitive, so maybe we make it a little easier. So we can look at that section when we get to the student code of conduct in a moment as well. Okay, so we will see this one back again. Thank you all. Any further discussion on that? Sorry, folks. All right, seeing none, move on to JICH, drugs and alcohol use by students. Any discussion on this policy? All right, seeing none, move on to our final one, JICI, weapons in school. Any discussion on JICI? All right, seeing none. Any further discussion on second reading? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. Properly second. To a vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0. All right, section 5, discussion item. We are up to 5.1 student code of conduct for the 2022-2023 school year. Dr. Lucas or Mr. Weller.
Mr. Weller, are you ready to give us a little background on this and let us know what the next steps are?
So basically, the student code of conduct is something that we covered in our last workshop, is something that will be handed out district-wide for all students. Basically, this will outline our student rights, responsibilities, code of conduct violations, and how we will handle student discipline, how we will take a look at things such as the grievance policy, expulsion hearings, things of that. Basically, this is an all-encompassing guide that will allow our administrators, our students, our parents to understand the discipline protocols in the Lake Forest School District. Flipping through the guide, there are various areas where there are things like the principal is outlined, and then there are areas where building administrator is outlined. A lot of those are to match Delaware code to make sure that we're in line. We've defined a building administrator as somebody who is a principal or their designee. And we outlined the principal as principal or assistant principal, somebody carrying the principal title. So those are some things that are in there that as we are going through this, we might want to keep in mind that there are legal definitions and legal terms that we are looking at. Now, when we get to the policies, the appendix section, it has the policies. As soon as they are finalized, we are looking to paste those policies into the appendix. And then we have further policies tonight that are up for first reading that will refer to the student code of conduct. And the student code of conduct, this year, we're going to do a first and a second reading because this is new to us here in Lake Forest. However, in future years, we will do a policy committee meeting on it somewhere around the mid-year, and then at the end of the year, we'll do one reading on it. So as we are at this point now, where we are ready to take a look at the first reading and ready to receive any feedback that you guys may have or any questions.
Mr. Weller, maybe if you could also recap,
The process.
yeah, like how did we come up with the document that we currently have in our hand right here?
So this document has come up basically this year at the advice of our council as we go through and we review our discipline policies and we take a look at making sure that we're aligned with regulation 616 and different codes and state policy and state statutes. So what we did was we started the year off by taking a look at different types of student codes of conduct throughout the state and integrating different portions into them. We did work with our administrators, met with LFEA. We've given out various drafts of this and solicited feedback from the public, from our administrators and from LFEA. And through that whole process, we've been able to develop this document, which we do think will be of value. The expectation is at the beginning of next year is that the schools will review this document with the students, so the students know the code of conduct infractions. And then we will also in here have a consent form that will be sent home to parents to sign saying they reviewed the student code of conduct. Our plan is to make that consent form with a QR code so parents can access it right online. However, if they would like a printed copy, they can check a box and we'll have a printed copy available for them too.
And for anyone who was not aware or in the previous meeting, I think it was our last meeting we did prior to the public session, we did have a public workshop to where this was presented to the board as kind of a pre-read. And we did go through it fairly explicitly. It offered a fair amount of feedback. So this tonight is really almost a second of 3 readings, where most things we're usually doing it first and a second. So, okay, so with that, we'll open it up for discussion from the board. So if I may, so this is a discussion item now. We will intend to move. Just checking my memory. Is there not an approval of this on the agenda tonight?
Down by school choice.
Yes, there we go. Okay. So down in section 22, we would be circling back to vote on it for the first reading. Thank you, Mr. Cook. Okay, so discussion on code of conduct. Mrs. Darby.
I was just curious on the acknowledgement of this, that it's been received, that it's been read. Will the only way to sign off on that be in the booklet, or like, will it be online, or how's that gonna work?
So the first day of school, our plan is to send a consent form home that's similar to this, that has a QR code on it with the same acknowledgement, and then it's separate. This is part of the book, basically because it's something that shows that there is some consent, or if a parent needs a written copy, we can provide it to them. But however, our goal is to not print out copies unless parents request, but also is to have this, is to make sure that parents know that they can access this at any time from anywhere. So sending this home in just a one-sheet consent form with QR code, that's going to be our current plan.
So the QR code will take you to the code of conduct itself.
Correct.
Not, I misunderstood at the beginning. That QR code is not taking you to an online consent form. It's still going to be a written consent form that goes home, is signed and returned.
Correct.
The QR code will take you to this document.
So for the process of this right now, Mr. Dempsey, like, are we really just looking at the content of the student code of conduct? I mean, we're not gonna go through, like, we can just, can I give Mr. Weller my copy to kind of go through the formatting stuff and?
I would, how much do you have?
No, thanks.
So I would think, yes, I think that kind of stuff, if you want to, I think similar, I think I did the same thing last meeting,
Yes.
right? I made something, and I just handed, if you want to do that, that's great. If there's anything substantive that you have,
Go through that.
maybe we'll go through that. While Mrs. Starkey is looking for that,
I notice near the end, we have a lot of appendices. Some of them are blank. What's the intention there?
So right now, we have policies that are in the reading process, like weapons in schools, we have drugs and alcohol. As soon as those policies are adopted as changed, they will be pasted into the student code of conduct.
Okay, so not the ones we are looking at tonight to be removed.
Correct.
Those have already been incorporated.
Correct.
These are additional ones that you are rewriting now as policy.
Correct.
They will come to us for approval as the policy. And in that case, the policy will exist and also be here.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so those policies will not be removed as these tonight.
Not tonight. Now, in future years, like let's say the next time the drug and alcohol policy comes up, we can make that policy refer to the student code of conduct if we wish at that time. I didn't want to shift everything over at this time to the student code of conduct. But has these appendices, as they come up for policy readings again, we can shift them to refer to the code of conduct.
So I'm not overly concerned with approving a first reading with blank pages. I get what we're saying, but if we could, when those specific policies come up to us, for us to know specifically which ones we are approving, that will be a policy, but will also be copied and pasted into here. So if those can just be specifically flagged for us.
Okay.
And you may have already intended that. Thank you, Ms. Stark.
You're much more familiar with this than I am. So like, we just talked about policy IJ in DB. Okay, that was the use of technology resources where we said, like, let's bullet that section. Like, where is that in here?
That will be at the end.
Okay, so that'll be one of the,
Yes, one of the appendix policies.
It's appendix 4 maybe.
okay, so this will, like, as it's written, once it's
Once it's
modified and changed, that will go in there.
correct.
Mr. McCloskey.
Mr. Ross, you say, so is this, I know you had said that this can be reviewed. So what I see, the more I look at it, the more I feel that it's a good structure that has just enough rigidity in I think mainly I'm looking at the code of conduct part of it where discipline. You have the flexibility, and I'm hoping that the administrators have had good feedback with liking that part of it. But is this something, so I think it has a good, nice box that it fits in. But after 1 year of using this, we will be able to always go in and say, this isn't working and this isn't. So are we going to have a specific feedback that you're going to send to administrators or things like that so that we can go based on that, or?
Yes,
Okay,
yes. So my plan is to have a policy committee meeting centered around this, like the January, February timeline. We've had half a year, a full semester, and let's take a look at what's working in here and what's not working, and then make adjustments. So like we can make adjustments as different things come up. I mean, for example, I don't think 5-7 years ago vaping was an issue. Vaping is something now that we need to address. We do take a look at things, and we will have mechanisms for not only administrators, but also LFEA feedback and commission feedback to see, what changes we need.
yeah, I think that's just, I like to know that that's in the works always, because I feel like this has to be a moving document in that way. And I think, like I said, I think it's a good amount of rigidity and being able to move around, but also maybe it's not. Maybe it needs to be a tad more rigid or a tad. So I do think that having this as a working document and having these scheduled things continue is necessary, and making sure we have that people and have these committees.
And one of the hard things was throughout this whole process was we took a look at every district's code of conduct
Right.
and what they're doing. And different districts handle things way differently. And we didn't want to be way out of whack with anybody else and what anybody else. We don't want to be too harsh. We don't want to be too lenient. So somewhere we try to fall, pretty much within that sweet spot as far as dealing with discipline. But however, as we get into this, we may see that there are some things that maybe we need to increase or decrease, and definitely having that moving conversation. And that is what makes myself feel more comfortable about having this document being reviewed annually. We're taking a look at annually at what we're doing for students in the realm of discipline.
And I think it would be good for record keeping and data collection to be able to assess easily levels and who's reached this level and how many times and what's been going on and easily be able to regress and keep the data. So to me, I think it's a great moving document. The fact that I know it's going to stay moving makes me even more excited for it, I think so.
And if I can jump in on that, so, one of my frustrations with policies and our review process is that, always like to ask the question, when we come up with a policy, are we doing this? Are we following this? Does this make sense? And there have been times to where we find out that we have a policy in place that's not being followed because it doesn't really make sense, or it doesn't apply, or there's something ambiguous about it. With this, having it reviewed every year is great, but what is going to happen is everyone that's using this, namely all of our administrators, every circumstance that they come up with that they're dealing with, they need to hold up to this code of conduct. And if they find that that code of conduct is ambiguous, or it is contradictory, or it doesn't cover this specific situation, that it's flagged up then, right? Not to try to remember when we do that annual review, but that it's flagged up to someone then, so we can make a note of it to adjust next year.
Yes.
Especially now that we're starting off with this, but we do also have a unique opportunity when we're looking at this every year, as opposed to what has been our traditional every 3-year policy.
And I do think that the comprehensive nature of this, like it outlines what our investigative process is going to be, grievance policy is going to be. It aligns all of that stuff so the administrator goes to one place and is able to find everything. The parent is able to understand what happened in the process of investigating something. So I think having those things and then being able to refine them, but there's a lot in here too that is pretty much aligned with Delaware code. Like there are parts in this that pretty much have to stay similar, but as far as the discipline piece, the individual offense piece, we have some room. The rights and responsibilities piece, as far as like the attendance policy, dress code, harassment, those kinds of things, we do have an ability to look at things and say, hey, we need to change things up a little bit. We need to tinker with this. And so we have that ability every year to take a look at those things. Because I think, and I'm sorry, because I think one of the things that this will help us do is annually take a look at those student issues that now come up on separate timelines. So the dress code, the attendance, the discipline, all this stuff comes up on separate timelines. Now we're going to be on one pretty similar timeline where we're able to take a look at these things and address these issues.
Because don't get me wrong, I think it's a great document, and I think it's going to serve a very good purpose. But especially starting off, everything's not in here. And there's things missing, or there's things that are wrong, or there's things we're going to come up with. And I don't know what those are, and you don't know what those are. But what I've seen happen with plenty of other organizations is that those things are widely known, right? It's known, people will say, oh yeah, well, the policy says that, but that's not really the case. But it's not known by you or I, who are the ones who actually change it. It's known by the folks who don't pass that feedback on. So that we need to make sure we set that kind of culture and climate, that this is an iterative document, that we need that regular feedback. Every situation you're in, refer to this document, and if it's not there, and it should be, tell us.
And that's my job, is to collect that data.
Correct.
And to make sure that make sure that when we come up to those policy committee meetings, or we're having those conversations, that we're recommending these changes to you guys.
Ms. McCluskey.
Do you, if you're collecting the data, is it going to be easily transferable from eSchool, or are you going to come up with a different data collection to make sure? So like, let's say we could easily know how many level 1 infractions have been, or things like that. Is that only going to be done there, or do you think we're going to come up with some sort of?
So I'm glad you brought that up. So we are currently, and today actually, I finished development on our referral system for next year that we're going to be using district-wide. So district-wide, we're going to be using the same referral system for for processing and also making referrals. So teachers are going to be able to make referrals through an online method and data service. And then basically the administrator is going to be able to review them. And then that's going to help us collect all the data and figure out how many S code violations we're having, or how many suspensions we're having, or how many, and be able to break down different demographics of different code violations and different referral stuff. But basically, we're going to be able to streamline our referral process. So we're pretty much processing and handling referrals the same throughout the district.
Let's start.
One of my favorite things about this, and I don't know who wrote this, but the rights and responsibilities in here are probably my favorite part about the code of conduct. It just has such a positive undertone. You know, I feel like a lot of times we hear code of conduct and it automatically sounds negative and discipline. And so the rights and responsibilities just really give this a very positive spin as the expectations rather than the punishment. So I love that. I don't know where that came from, but I love it.
So we, at the advice of our council, we were asked to take a look at a few different districts. And we looked at their codes of conduct and looked at their rights and responsibilities, but also too, some of these things came from policies that we've had in the district that we're using right now, that maybe nobody outside of our meetings is seeing on a regular basis. And now we're able to show that and transfer that. So that did come from a couple of different areas in our feedback. And I think really that was the part that I think everybody understood and everybody kind of got.
Did you see in any of the code of conduct you looked at where they included grading policies or anything related to that? I'm just curious if that belongs in here or not. I don't know.
So I have seen, there are codes of conduct that exist that are 20 pages.
Yeah.
There are codes of conduct that are 200 pages.
Right. We don't want that.
And so it's really trying to find that sweet spot of what's too much. But there are policies out there that do have the grading policy that have basically every type of expectation throughout the district that is. And maybe as we see fit going into next year and following years, we do start to integrate some of those things. But I think for right now, we really wanted to make sure that we got the rights and responsibilities and discipline focus, those two things outlined for our administrators.
And I agree with you. It was just one of those things that, because I kind of think of this as an all-in-one, you know, this has everything in it. So that would be the only piece that I think parents would often want information on that wouldn't be in here. That's the only thing I can think of, but I don't.
And
It's also
there-
not exactly code of conduct, but I don't know.
And there are things that like grading policies, I saw in a couple, I saw curriculum outlines, I saw various instructional things, like it is kind of, it really shows that it is a moving document because you can really take a look at some districts and tell that it started at this and it expanded to this. So, but those are things that definitely in the future, I think that those are conversations we're gonna have.
But I also, like, if it's too long, nobody's gonna look at it at all. It's gonna be too overwhelming for a parent to just, you know, dive into a 150-page booklet like that. That doesn't make any sense either.
Correct. The number one goal out of this whole document, I think at this moment right now, is to provide parents and administrators the understanding of the discipline process in our district and what we're going to accomplish, and also to outline rights and responsibilities.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you this afterwards. The one thing I did, like, just kind of throughout, all of you who've been working on it are probably very familiar with it and know where to turn and where to find that information. But like, this is just an example on page 32, number 6, when it talks about the board policy JICH, I think that's going to be appendix 3, I believe. So it might be good as you're going through that to reference it directly in the code of conduct so that they don't have, so they know it's right there. They don't have to go find it themselves. So just, that's an example, but there are a few in there.
Those are changes that I am trying to reformat and look at.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I appreciate everybody looking at this, because I have looked at this so much.
I know.
That it really starts to run together, but also we have had people outside of myself who have reviewed it. But those are definitely changes that we involve. I think the main changes I want people to understand is that there are areas where we specify building administrator, and there are areas that we specify principal. Those basically fall in line with what Delaware code allows us to do in those situations.
And I think even if some of that stuff's written, like, I trust you do what's best. It's just thoughts, more questions, I guess, that I have than what needs to be.
So to that point, what Ms. Starkey brought up about page 32, number 6, and that board policy. So it'd be nice, any of those types of things that we reference, that we, especially since this is going to be a living online document, that we have that as a hyperlink. No matter whether it's a board policy or it's Delaware code or anything like that, that we include it as a link that's clickable and takes you directly there. In addition to, in this case, referencing that it's also Appendix 6.
Because I'm thinking about more.
Yes, right. Well, especially now that I learned that we're not going to mass produce things, which I agree with. It gives us a little flexibility of some of those things we can do. A further discussion on code of conduct at this point. So if anyone does have any non-substantive edits, as Mrs. Starkey was referencing, we want to provide those to Mr. Weller at the end of the meeting. You can take those away and incorporate those into second. Dustin, or Mr. Weller, are we gonna, is this gonna stay up for public comment? Is this gonna stay on the website for public comment?
I don't have any plans of taking it down.
Okay, so you're also welcome to any of those edits that you want to provide through the website. And then can we do substantive edits at the second reading, Mr. Dempsey?
With policies generally, if we can make it on the fly and it can be improved that night, we can do that. Yeah. All right. Well, I think what we're trying to avoid here is, because we do want to have this done in fairly short order, so it's ready by the end of the school year.
I think
So I
it's-
don't want to push it out to a third.
I think if we're wrapping this up by mid-June, I think we're in good place.
But just understanding this is a pretty comprehensive document and you want to do it right. Just want to be able to maintain the ability that if we're not ready, when it comes time a month from now to do that second reading, maintain that understanding that, yeah, we got to get it done that first meeting in June. That's our definite deadline. I just wanted to have that for planning purposes.
Yeah. The thing we would like to avoid is any major overhauls being done at the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is a pretty solid document. I don't think we're going to find, again, this has been vetted by our attorney. It's aligns, our goal was to align with code and ensure that for example, you mentioned the ability to track data. That, we were a little handcuffed by that because our existing student code of conduct did not align with eSchool. So a lot of times, we were trying to collect data in a way that was not effective. Whereas now it's, this really provides a much more streamlined way. And I really like what you say, because yes, that was our goal, was to create expectations and to create more, not a list of do's and don'ts, but more of a, here are the standards, here are the expectations. It's not really optional not to follow them, rather than just saying, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. We really wanted to create a document that was much more positive than what we do and what the expectations are. And Mr. Welch did a great job of creating something that I think sends much more clear message, and everybody is going to be singing from the same sheet of music on this. So kudos to Mr. Welch for doing a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to Mr. Weller and the whole team behind you.
who's had input on this. So, thank you much. All right, so we'll move on to section 6, board policy first readings.
Motion to approve resolution 6.1, board policy, first reading.
Actually, Mr. Thomas, this is just a discussion. We'll circle back and vote again. Yes, sir. You got it. I appreciate your enthusiasm. All right, so this is a discussion item, so we'll go through these one by one. Most of them are going to be fairly simple if we agree with the fact that the policy will be removed, transferred over, is being transferred over into, the contents being transferred over into the code of conduct. And we're replacing the policy with a statement that refers to that code of conduct. So with that said, we will start with EEAEC, student conduct on buses. Yeah, so basically the statement's going to be the same in each one. The student code of the policy name will be outlined in the Lake Forest District Student Code of Conduct. Lake Forest Board of Education will vote to approve the student code of conduct on an annual basis. Any discussion on this change in this policy? All right. No, seeing none, we'll move on to JE, student attendance. The same recommendation being made there. Any discussion on this policy? All right. Seeing none, moving on, JIBA, student government. Same recommendation being made there for student government. Any discussion on this policy? Seeing none, move on to JICA, student dress. Same recommendation being made for student dress. Any discussion on this policy? So none, move on to JICDA, Code of Conduct. So I do appreciate this one appearing before us. This was our discussion last meeting about wanting to have a policy referencing the Code of Conduct. Discussion on JICDA. So I'll say I didn't really like the wording of the two headings, if you will, code receipt and code orientation. And I was trying to figure out how to rewrite those. And then I took a step back and said, do we really need them? Can we just have it as 3 paragraphs? Instead of instead of the code receipt and the code orientation, just erasing those and just having a paragraph standalone. Yeah. Because it is fairly short. It's not. So Weller, you have any objection based on your interaction with Mr. Stafford on that?
I think along in talking with Mr. Stafford, it's the content that we have.
That was all I had on that. Anyone have anything else on this? Okay, great. Moving on, JIH. Student interrogation, searches, and arrests. So we're back to the same recommendation with this policy. Any discussion here? Seeing none, move on to our final one, JK, student discipline. Same recommendation being made with student discipline. Any discussion on this policy? Okay, seeing none, that concludes discussion on first reading. We'll circle back for a vote later in the evening. Now, Mr. Thomas, we are up to you, section 7.
Amendments. Make a motion to approve resolution 7.1 as written.
Second?
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0.
Moving on to 14 personnel. Officer Department, make a motion to approve resolution 14.1 and 14.2 as written.
Second?
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0.
16, personnel leaves of absence. I make a motion to approve resolution 16.1 through 16.3 as written.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Motion fails 4-0.
Continuing on the personnel leave of absence, I make a motion to approve resolution 16.4 through 16.17 as written.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0.
20, personnel appointments, I make a motion to approve resolution 20.1 as written.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0.
21, memorandum of understanding, I make a motion to approve resolution 21.1 through 21.3 as written.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0.
22 other business, I make a motion to approve resolution 22.1 and 22.2 as written.
Second. Can we do this together?
Could we maybe separate those, Mr. Thomas, just because they are distinct topics, just in case?
Make a motion to approve resolution 22.1 school choice as written.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0.
Continuing in 22 other business, I make a motion to approve resolution 22.2 as written.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any further discussion on student code of conduct? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0.
23 other business, field trip, I make a motion to approve resolution 23.1 as written.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0.
24 other business, financial reports, I make a motion to approve resolution 24.1 as presented.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0.
25 other business, board policies, I make a motion to approve resolution 25.1 board policies first reading as modified during study.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any further discussion on our first readings this evening? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Thank you, Mrs. Starkey. We are up to 26, section 26, board report discussion items. Start with 26.1, Delaware School Board Association. Mrs. Starkey.
Yeah, we have not met since our last meeting. We meet next Wednesday before.
All right. Any questions for Mrs. Starkey? All right, thank you, Mrs. Starkey. 26.2, Legislative Committee. That is Mr. Rao. Mr. Rao did share several documents. Was there any questions or discussion from the board on any of those items? Okay, 26.3, Ecap Policy Council. So I had the privilege of attending the last Ecap Policy Council Thursday, March 16th. Sounds like so long ago. So I had not attended one
in at least well, given COVID, it's been a while. I was very impressed with the DEC staff and the effort that they expended for the meeting. We even had a little fun with a would you rather icebreaker that taught everyone a little more about me than I normally share in most meetings. But I do always enjoy the opportunity of being able to walk that hallway of that school where I went to kindergarten and first grade, which is always a little piece of history people are interested to hear about. Parents that were in attendance were also very motivated by the program, spoke very highly of it. And each one of them that was there was willing to step up as officers within the council. Unfortunately, they didn't quite have enough for a quorum. So they couldn't move ahead on any of those officer positions or any other official business. But I will say the DEC staff is working very diligently at ways to attract folks from the programs out into these meetings. But the content sharing and the feedback, especially from the parents, was excellent. So the next meeting is scheduled Thursday, May 19th, 5:30 p.m. I believe Mrs. McCloskey, at this point, you're on tap for that?
Yeah.
Great. Any questions, anything you had to add? Any questions for Ecap policy? Let's see. Okay, we are up to 26.4, good of the order. Opportunity for board members to address any other topics not covered elsewhere on the agenda. So I had a few, so it's been a while since we got together, a couple things. Odyssey of the Mind took place. I don't think I mentioned this last meeting. I'm not sure if it took place prior to last meeting or not, but I had the opportunity, the privilege of judging Odyssey of the Mind again this year. And oddly enough, those out of the 16 teams that I judged, not having Lake Forest team, unfortunately, which is rare. But I know we had a great showing, and it was a really great event. And even with paring it down with a statewide tournament like that, they were only allowing the team in, and I think one attendee or one visitor with each person. It was still great to see the kids doing it all in person. Likewise, as our student government representative mentioned, the FFA banquet. I was able to attend the FFA banquet. I was running late for my work meeting. I got there just in time to get a plate of food and to sit down and the lights go out. And you know, our students, our officers were up there right in the middle of their presentations. And actually it was Mr. Ryan Deputy that was in the middle of it. And he hesitated for maybe 3 or 4 seconds and then just kept going. And instead of speaking softly into the microphone, he just raised his voice and they just went on. And it was really, really good to see. Tremendous amount of community support there as well. So as always, appreciate being included in those things. Last thing I will mention, as I've been mentioning several meetings previously, this is our final meeting before our upcoming school board election. So school board elections traditionally take place the second Tuesday of every May. This year that would be Tuesday, May 10th. We have one seat that is up for election. Mr. Thomas's seat is going to be vacated, and that seat will be a 4-year term that is up for election that will begin on July 1st, 2022 for 4 years. There are 4 polling places open that May 10th. Polling places are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You must provide proof of identity and address. And those polling places are the Frederica Fire Hall, Lake Forest North Elementary, Lake Forest South Elementary, and Lake Forest High School. We do have 3 community members who are candidates in this election. And as listed on the Department of Elections website, we have Mrs. Betty Ann Wyatt from Felton, Mr. DJ.W. Silicato from Harrington, and Mr. Jake Martinez from Felton. And I do believe, Dr. Lucas, just prior to that event, the week prior, I believe our
Parent Advisory Council is having an event. Do you have any details on that off the top of your head? Yes, May 5th. At the PAC meeting, it will be virtual. It is accessible on our website. There will be, it's going to be hosted by a couple of our PAC members. It's going to be a Q&A. I believe 2 of our 3 candidates have agreed to participate, or are available. I don't want to say that. Are available to participate that evening. So any citizens that want to come to those meetings can log in. It will be via Zoom and open to the public to hear what our candidates have to say. So we do encourage the public to get involved over the next couple of weeks, learn about the candidates, meet them on May 5th, and please come out and vote on May 10th. Last thing is that our next meeting will be Thursday, May 12th at 7 p.m. We will be returning to the central business office. And thanks again to Lake Forest North, their staff, students, and administration for hosting us tonight. It was a pleasure being here. That is all I have. Does anyone have anything else to add? All right, with that, I will entertain a motion for adjournment. So moved.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion? One thing I did fail to ask is we do not have a need for executive session. Is that correct? That's correct, sir. So with the motion on the floor, I will seek vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0. The board stands adjourned 8:31 p.m. Thanks again to everybody who came out in person as well as those who joined online.